And joining us now is NBC News international affairs analyst Michael McFaul. He is the former U.S. ambassador to Russia during the Obama administration, a professor of international studies at Stanford. Ambassador, good morning to you.
Hey, Savannah.
You were among those who advised President Biden before this meeting. You have certainly had a long history yourself with Vladimir Putin and with Russian relations. I will not ask you to divulge your advice to the president, but generally, what did you tell him about how to approach Putin?
Well, I think it's a tricky, delicate balancing act that President Biden has today, because he wants to engage with Vladimir Putin on interests that we share, strategic stability talks, arms control, and that's appropriate. At the same time, he needs to deliver a blunt message about things that we disagree with. Ukraine, Alexei Navalny, the Americans being held hostage in Moscow. And that is a tricky thing to do because you want to have some progress, and I suspect there will be some progress, but you don't want too much progress. That's the challenge for Biden today at this meeting.
If his recent interview, Putin's, with Keir Simmons is any indication, talking to Putin is an exercise in frustration. He deflects, he engages in whataboutism. You could tell him the sky is blue and he would say, where is the proof? So how do you make any headway? Is there any real point to a meeting like this?
Well, first, Savannah, you're exactly right about Putin, and that's exactly why you shouldn't hold a joint press conference with him. Because if he's not, he doesn't have to tell the truth and he plays whataboutism, that is not a productive exchange. Behind closed doors, however, I think it's different, especially when they're talking about things where they might be able to agree. I think both countries want to have arms control negotiations begin soon, because the New START treaty will expire in 4 years. That may sound like a long time, but the next treaty is going to be very, very difficult. And so when they're talking about issues like that, you can find mutual agreement. When you're talking about human rights activists and their prosecution in Russia, you'll have no agreement whatsoever. He'll play that whataboutism game, and it is frustrating.
What incentive does Russia or Vladimir Putin have to stop its disruptive behavior, whether it's harboring cyber criminals, as the U.S. believes he does, or interfering in our election, which our intelligence agency says he did? Why would he stop that?
I'm not optimistic that he will. I think he has been the most revisionist leader in the world today, disruptive, not paying attention to any of the kind of rules of the liberal international system. But remember, talk is cheap at meetings like this, Savannah. He can come out and say, I want a normal relationship with the United States. Doesn't mean he'll act that way later, but it's very easy for him to say that when he's standing next to the president. And I suspect there's going to be a mix of that. The reading that I see out of the Russian press and people close to Vladimir Putin is that they want a cordial meeting here today. Doesn't mean things will be cordial tomorrow, but out of Geneva, they want some kind of headline that says there's a normalization of U.S.-Russian relations.
And real quickly, just to put this in perspective as we go along today, this is not Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in the 80s, two superpowers meeting. This is Russia, which is in many ways a very diminished country. And Vladimir Putin is enhanced by even being this relevant on the world stage, isn't he?
Yes, you're exactly right. I mean, Putin is not Gorbachev, not only because he's not the leader of a superpower, but remember when Gorbachev was in Geneva meeting with Reagan, he wanted to join the West. Putin does not want to join the West, and Gorbachev wanted to reform domestic politics and his economy in the Soviet Union. Putin is doing the exact opposite. All
right, Ambassador McFaul, it's good to have you along with us, and I know you'll be with us throughout the morning as we bring you the latest from Geneva. NBC News will have live coverage of President Biden's post-summit news conference as soon as it begins.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.